Hey, you guys, just a couple of quick questions for you. Number one, how many of you, and be honest, think about this. How many of you say that you really, really love Jesus? Like you really love him with all of your heart? Now, second question. How many of you would die for Jesus? Would you like give your life for him? He gave his life for you after all, but how many of you would literally lay down your life for Jesus Christ if you had to? And here's another question. So, what was the first thing that you thought of today when you woke up? How many times today have you thought about Jesus? When was the last time you were convicted in your heart for sinning? How much time have you spent with Jesus just in this last week alone? How much time did you spend praying? And how much time did you spend studying his word? How many people did you tell about Jesus Christ just in this last week? Oh, and real quick, just for fun, just take a moment and recite to yourself the 10 commandments. Do you know what the 10 commandments are? Like all 10 of them. You know, it's interesting. The early church loved Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, so much that millions of them died willingly without complaint for the gospel. Not only did they do that, they also watched their loved ones. The children saw their parents get persecuted. The parents watched their children get persecuted. Husbands watched their wives. Wives watched their husbands. So they literally willingly gave their lives for the gospel. And it was brutal. So, final question, I promise. How many of you are willing to be persecuted for Jesus in some fashion? It could be spiritually, it could be just plain being afflicted, shamed, it could be torture, being killed, whatever. Persecuted in some fashion. Maybe it's family members or friends coming against you, your job. How many of you are truly willing to be persecuted for Jesus Christ, to where when trials and tribulations come, instead of complaining about them, you're praising God during those trials and tribulations, and you are just joyous in your heart of hearts? Now, finally, and this is really going to make you think. Okay, I want you to go back in your mind now, think about everything I've asked, and think about all of your answers. Okay. Jesus Christ said the first and most important commandment is love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, did you know the first three commandments are how you love God? The fourth commandment, the Shabbat or the Sabbath, is how you love yourself, because the Shabbat or the Sabbath was made for man and not for God. And the remaining six commandments are how you love others. So Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And then we know that we also must obey the 10 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus also said, love your enemies and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. So, once again, after all of these things that I've asked and statements that I've made, you said in the beginning of this that you really, really, really love Jesus, right? You said it. I'm sure that most of you listening to this message, if you made it this far, you claimed that you really love Jesus. But how much time do you spend with him? How often do you absorb yourself with him or think of him? And do you keep his commandments? And if you answered the question, oh, yeah, me for sure, that you would willingly lay down your life, suffer, be persecuted, whatever, for Jesus Christ, then I want to leave you with this. How come then you refuse to put to death your flesh and walk in the spirit of the Holy Spirit, the spirit of truth?